Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode on Day to Day Christians. Today we're going to get into the book of Exodus, the second book in the Bible. In our last video, we just finished off the first book of the Bible, Genesis, and we learnt about how the Israelites came to reside in Egypt. And this book in the Bible, it's all about the exit of the Israelites from Egypt. So let's get into what it says. To start us off, one of the first things we learn in the book of Exodus is that Joseph and all of his brothers and that generation have passed away. They're all dead, they're all gone, and now we have a new generation of Israelites in Egypt. And they stayed in Egypt in that area of Goshen, and they prospered and they thrived and they grew. They grew in number and in strength. The next thing we find out in verse 8 is that there's a new king, a new Pharaoh in Egypt, and that this Pharaoh never knew Joseph. In this way, by saying that he never knew Joseph, it means that he didn't really understand or have the knowledge as to why the Israelites were there, or why to look after them or see them as a valuable neighboring people. And he looked at the Israelites in a certain way. This Pharaoh recognized the strength growing in the Israelites area and in the people. He also concerned himself a lot about war and about his neighboring countries possibly invading Egypt and taking some of his land and some of his wealth away from him. And so when the Pharaoh saw the Israelites gain in population and in strength, he became concerned that maybe one day that they will join his neighboring countries and join forces with his enemies and fight the Egyptian people and fight him and take their land and then be able to escape it. And so with this fear, the Pharaoh decided that he should oppress the people of Israel by setting taskmasters over them and giving them heavy burdens, and eventually, even as it says here, ruthlessly turns them all into slaves. And just quickly, we call these people Israelites now because they are the descendants of Jacob, who was renamed Israel. So his descendants, the 12 sons and their descendants, they are now the people of Israel and the Israelites. So already up to verse 14, we have here the Israelites have become slaves. Straight off the bat in Exodus, we have the reasoning behind it, and we have the cause and how it happened, that they were given heavy burdens. They were made to build cities and to serve this Pharaoh who didn't know of Joseph and the reason these people were there to begin with. And what we see here is that even though the Israelites had now become slaves, they still were able to multiply and grow in population. And this was what the Pharaoh was afraid of, their strength and their people growing even under the banner of enslavement and under all the heavy tasks and the responsibilities they now had. So the Pharaoh decided to do something super drastic and really dark. He asked all the midwives of the Israelites to come, all the ladies who bore the children, not the mothers, but the women who assisted in childbirth. And he said to these women, the midwives, that every time a baby is to be born, if it is a male child, kill them on the spot. But let the daughters, the girls, let them survive. And he said this kind of like a command. I mean, he's the slave master. All these people are his servants. And so these midwives were his servant. And yet these midwives, these Israelites, denied doing what this Pharaoh said and didn't kill the boys that were born in the area. Then the Pharaoh made an even darker order come out. It states in verse 22, "Then Pharaoh commanded all his people, every son that is born to the Hebrews you shall cast into the Nile, but you shall let every daughter live." So this is a death order, a command to his Egyptian men to go out and slaughter all of the male born, all of the young children that are male, to be killed and to be thrown into the Nile, where they'll either die from drowning or from the animals that are in there. A horrendous command that he has given to his people in fear of this Israelite population. Now, within the Israelite population lived a couple who had just conceived a young boy and were concealing him in their property, in their home, for 3 months. But then it came to a point where they couldn't conceal and hide him any longer, and they had to do something in order to save this little boy's life from wrongful execution. So the mother of the boy built a basket from papyrus leaves and put the child in the basket and left him in the reeds on the edge of the Nile. And actually, the sister of this little boy stayed back and watched to see what would happen to her little baby brother on the edge of the Nile, left defenseless, just in hope that something would save him. And who would expect the thing to save him from Pharaoh's order would come from Pharaoh's house itself? Pharaoh's daughter was walking into the Nile to bathe when her and her servant saw the basket. The servant brought the basket to the daughter of the Pharaoh, and when she opened it, she saw the Israelite baby inside, and she felt pity for this young boy. So the sister actually springs up and talks to the daughter of Pharaoh, this incredibly high-ranking person, and says, "Would you like me to find a nurse mother, someone to nurse the baby while it's in its infant stages of life?" And the Pharaoh's daughter agreed to this. And so the sister actually brought the young child's mother back and grabbed the baby, and so the young child was able to go back home again under the protection of the Pharaoh's daughter and be nursed by his mother. And then once the baby grew up a bit, it was then given back to Pharaoh's daughter, who had kind of possession of this child, and the Pharaoh's daughter took it in as her own son. And she named this young child Moses. And she named him Moses because she drew him out of the water. And the Hebrew verb mashah means to draw out. So here we have the introduction to Exodus, that the people are suffering, the Pharaoh is fearful of them and is doing drastically evil things in order to try and sustain and to stop the progression of their population and their strength. And then we have this little boy be saved miraculously by the Pharaoh's household, and he is now the prince of Egypt. He's in the royal family, and his name is Moses. You probably already know that name already, and this is the introduction to one of the most important people in the Bible, and definitely one of the most important people in the Old Testament. So thank you for watching this video. We're going to leave it there for the minute, and then we're going to get into the next part in our next video. God bless you. Please like and subscribe if you like this, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.